Hello everyone. Today I would like to make a presentation on my research topic, the overuse of first-person plural pronouns in Korean EFL learners. We in the Korean language is broadly used to refer to multiple identities. For example, when Koreans refer to their dog as our dog, the pronoun could imply one person or a whole group of people. The most prominent example of using 우리, 저희, which refers to we, our, us in Korean, would be 우리나라, which directly translated means our country. On the other hand, native English speakers do not use the term we, our, us in the same way. To go back to the example of 우리나라, native English speakers use the pronoun my instead of the word our. Thus, directly translated, it would be 내 나라. The goal of this research is to use NCONC to analyze the Gachon learner corpus and KOKA to explore Korean L2 learners' common mistakes in using the first-person plural pronouns, and ultimately suggest solutions to overcome the L1 influence. The paper concludes the research by recapitulating the main points and applying them to teaching EFL learners. The primary electronic corpora used in the search are the corpus of contemporary American English KOKA and the Gachon learner corpus. Pronouns are indexical tools through which people in particular social structure intimately interact with each other through language. According to the Free Dictionary, first-person pronouns are used to express an autobiographical point of view. They tell what is directly happening to the speaker, writer, or fictional character. For example, I don't know where my hat is. When the speaker is part of a group, the first-person pronouns inflect to the plural form. We brought our own car. Please refer to the table on the right side of the slide. In English grammar, exclusive we is the use of first-person plural pronouns. We, us, our, ours, ourselves to refer only to the speaker or writer and his or her associates, not to the person addressed. On the other hand, in Korean grammar, exclusive first-person plural pronouns refer to the speaker himself or his or her associates. The best example of this would be the way Koreans say our wife to refer to my wife in English. In this case, the Korean exclusive first-person plural pronoun our refers only to the speaker himself and not to his associates, and neither does it refer to the listener. This isn't clearly the case in English, as English exclusive first-person plural pronouns refer not only to the speaker, but should also refer to the associates. So we first began our research with the question of what are the native English speakers referring to when they use we, us, our, because it is necessary to examine the use of the pronouns in both written and spoken discourse. Our analysis is based on the KOKA corpus. So we extracted 3,992,540 incidences in which the pronouns we, us, our was used. The table below shows 4 different possible interpretations of the first-person plural pronoun in the sentence. So these are the different referee types across the first-person plural pronouns. Type 1 is speaker plus listener. Type 2 is group in which both the speaker and the listener is part of. Type 3 is excluding the listener. And type 4 is only the speaker. So after doing analysis through KOKA corpus tool, the major findings were as follows. While the first person plural pronouns were most frequently used to refer to a group in which only the speaker is included and the listener isn't a part of, there was not a single instance in which the pronouns were used to indicate solely the speaker as an individual. To indicate a single individual, American speakers strictly turned to the singular first-person pronoun I, my, mine. The next question of our research naturally was, what are the Korean EFL learners referring to when they use we, us, our? Because it is necessary to examine the use of the pronouns in Korean EFL learners, our analysis is based on the Gachon learner corpus. We extracted the total of 115 incidences in which the pronouns we, us, our were used. We used the same referee type pool used for analysis in case 2.2. And these were the results of our analysis. Our major findings were as follows. Most of the cases, the first-person plural pronouns were used to indicate a group in which both the speaker and the listener is part of. On the other hand, unlike the standard English speakers, Korean EFL learners failed to use the first-person plural pronouns to indicate a group in which only the speaker himself is included and not the listener. Furthermore, there were some peculiar grammatical mistakes where the Korean EFL learners chose to use the first-person plural pronouns to indicate only the speaker as an individual instead of using the first-person singular pronouns. So to be more specific in terms of how they were making these grammatical mistakes, we chose to delve more deeply by asking the next question, which was, what are the Korean EFL learners referring to when they use the first-person plural pronoun we? So we extracted the total of 39 instances in which the pronouns we was used from the Gachon corpus. And we used the same referee type tool used for analysis on 2.2 section. And the result was as follows. So our major findings were that most of the cases, the first-person plural pronoun we was used as a subject of a verb to indicate the group in which both the speaker and the listener is part of. In other cases, this was used to indicate the speaker and the listener, or to indicate a group in which only the speaker and not the listener was part of. One grammatical mistake was made when a learner chose to use the fourth section, which was using the first-person plural pronoun we with a verb to indicate only the speaker as an individual instead of using the first-person singular pronouns. So the sentence was as follows. When I using the internet, we almost join the internet site. Here we refers to I. So clearly the speaker was making a mistake and was confused with this first-person plural pronoun. Now, the next question that we asked was, then, what are the Korean EFL learners referring to when they use a first-person plural pronoun us? So we extracted the total of 39 instances in which the pronouns us was used from the Gachon corpus, and we used the same referee type pool used for analysis. And the result was as follows. So our major findings were, most of the cases, the first-person plural pronoun us was used as an object of a verb or a preposition to indicate the group in which both the speaker and the listener is part of. The second most frequent case of referee was when they indicated a group that was only the speaker and not the listener was part of. The Korean EFL learners also made the mistake again of using the first person plural pronoun us while indicating the speaker as an individual. The case was higher than it was with using the pronoun we. For instance, one speaker said political problem is very difficult to us and some other peoples. Our next question and our final question was, of course, what are the Korean EFL learners referring to when they use the first person plural pronoun our? So we extracted the total of 37 instances in this case in which the pronouns our was used from the same corpus, and we used the same referee type pool used for the previous analysis cases. And the result was as follows. So our interpretation of the result was that, like the previous cases, the most prevalent indicated category of the first person plural pronoun our was the group in which both the speaker and the listener was part of. However, unlike other pronouns we and us, our was more often used to indicate only the speaker in Korean EFL speakers. In fact, the frequency rate was so high that it far outnumbered that of the cases of speaker and listener and excluding the listener. Thus, we could conclude that Korean EFL speakers tend to get highly confused when using the first person plural possessive determiner. One of the sentences that include such errors are as follows. Mirror is hanging on all sides in our apartment elevator. Here, the speaker is exclusively referring himself as our. This brings us to the final conclusion of our research. As seen in the previous section of our research, Korean EFL learners face hardships overcoming the cultural difference between Korea and Western countries. Korea, which is based on a more collective society, uses the first person plural pronoun to actually indicate only the speaker himself. However, once Korean speakers directly translate this to English, they make grammatical errors since American Standard English does not permit using first person plural pronoun to indicate singular identity. Through our research analysis on Koka and Gachon Learner Corpora, we made further observations as to which particular pronoun amongst we, our, and us Korean EFL learners make most grammatical errors. It turns out the pronoun our is most falsely used by Koreans. We could conclude that Koreans' idea of sharing their possession with the counterpart of the conversation is hard to detach from even as they speak a foreign language. So in order to teach a Korean EFL learner to properly distinguish the difference in the language and to prevent mistakes, teachers should first describe the different cultural background. Then they should help them at least be aware of the fact that the collectivism centered around Asian culture is hardly found in the Western culture where things are more individualistic. Thank you for listening to my presentation.